Hey guys, what's up? Basically what is going on here is the second mission in the Joan of Arc campaign. This one's called the Maid of Orleans. Not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but anyway, you basically just start out with a couple knights, one scout cavalry, which is probably pretty important to keep alive. He does prove useful later on, so luckily my scout cavalry did not die in this first little engagement here, although he did come very close to that, but I would highly recommend that you keep him alive. You just proceed down the path until you come to the city of something that I cannot pronounce, basically the teal-colored player, and you're given 6 trade cards, and you want to make sure you keep those alive, although it's very easy to do this, not really something difficult. Just make sure your army goes out in front of them, and just head up north towards the city of Orleans, and along the way you'll come across a few bandits. Nothing really too major, just a small little force, showing me fighting them off right here. Just a whole lot of men-at-arms. I destroyed the tower just to be safe. If you actually just attack the tower with your knights and keep your crossbowmen out of the way, once you've dispatched the rest of the forces, you can go along your way being unharmed, because the tower cannot fire at its base, so that's what I would recommend to do. I nearly lost a crossbowman here just being a little careless, but you do have to keep Joan alive, but don't worry about her until you get into the city, because she can deal with herself. She's pretty strong, on horseback, that is. So there is a bridge that you have to cross. There's actually also a transport ship that you can choose to take, which I did not showcase in the scenario, but basically if you want to head straight north, like directly north of the Teal City, there's going to be a dock with a couple transport ships, and if you decide to take that route, you can actually just cross the river without having to fight the highwaymen or Burgundy, whatever they want to call themselves. But I would recommend to just head north across the bridge. It's a little easier that way. And once you deliver the trade carts to the town center, you're given a pretty hefty amount of resources. And basically what I did here is I just built up a few villagers and then started working on my food production, because although you can advance to the castle age straight away if you choose to do so, it's best if you start collecting some food and kind of get your economy going a little bit before you advance, because that way you don't waste the time spent going to the castle age by not being able to harvest resources. So anyway, what I did with Joan is, since part of the scenario is she can't die, I just kept her over by the cathedral in the city and made her do the stand ground stance, because she does have a pretty long line of sight, and if she spots any enemies, she'll go charging after them if you don't make her stand ground. And then next thing I did is I took my scout cavalry and scouted around. You don't start with any gold piles or wood in your immediate city, but I'm going to be showing you guys pretty soon. You actually do come across a few farms which come under your control just to the west of the city, although I would recommend just building farms inside the city, because you will suffer some raids from the British if you decide to use the farms outside the city, and it's a little harder to protect them that way. But there is a gold pile and a pretty large forest just south of the farming area, which I will be showing a little bit once my scout heads around there. See, I'm just discovering the gold here. And there's also a pretty large forest, which is a great spot for a lumber camp. And this is where I would recommend to mine gold. There are actually a few other places, a couple other gold piles in other areas on the map, but both of them are a bit closer to the British. And if you are suffering any raids from the British, you can always just put up a palisade wall around your villagers as to not get attacked, or send a few knights down there. But I was never harassed, although I am playing on standard difficulty. I have played this campaign on a hard difficulty, but that was so long ago I don't really remember exactly what the raids are like. So the objective, I took very long getting around to talking about the objective, but the objective of this scenario is to destroy one of the 4 British castles. There's 2 British castles to the south, which are the South British. The South British will make lots of knights and not really make much else, and the North British will make long swordsmen and crossbowmen, and that might sound easier than knights at the start, but the North British are a bit more heavily fortified and a little harder to get to. So what I would recommend is to attack the South British castle that is just across the bridge. That's the one I go for, and that I'm going to be showing in this scenario playthrough. However, if you want to go after one of the North British castles or the other South British castle, you can feel free to do that. It is probably the easiest just to attack the South British castle, because their castle is right next to the wall, and all they have in there is a small little encampment with a stable and a tower or so, and not really a whole lot to deal with, so it is a pretty easy fight. So my tactic for attacking the British was just to build up a large force of knights and a few battering rams and just batter through their wall, and here you can see me dealing with a few raids. The North British, which is the red enemy, sent a few longswordsmen after me, and the South British, all they create is knights. Burgundy will send a couple spearmen and militia after you, basically nothing you really have to worry about at all. You can just dispatch them with your towers if you don't want to send your knights running off after them. But the force that you start with, you'll have a fair amount of knights, and you can repel all attacks pretty easily with that until you can really start creating a force of your own. So as you can see right now, I'm just building up farms all around my town center, and here I made a huge mistake. If you look at my wood, I only have 10 wood at the moment, and I did not start building a lumber camp until about right now. So you really want to spend a few of those villagers that I had making farms, you really want to build a lumber camp sooner, because I wasn't thinking about this earlier on, but you're not going to have any wood to reseed your farms unless you actually build a lumber camp a bit sooner. So that's something that you do not want to follow my bad example on. And anyways, besides that mistake, I'm getting my economy rolling pretty fast. Unfortunately, there's no point in building more than one town center. I know a lot of players playing online or a single player will like to build up a large amount of town centers and really boom their economy and create villagers fast, but I'd highly recommend not to do that, because the population limit in this scenario is only 75. So you're only going to want to have about 40 to 45 villagers at tops, and no more than that, otherwise you won't be able to make an army. So what I would recommend is just to stick with your one town center and have about 10 or so villagers cutting wood, 6 to 8 doing the gold, and probably the rest doing food. There's no need for stone in this scenario unless you really want to build a castle, but there isn't much point, because you can defend your city pretty well just with a few knights roaming the walls fighting off any attackers. So not really a whole lot of point for a castle, although you do start this scenario with 500 stone, so you're pretty close to a castle if you do need to. You can use that stone if you are suffering a whole lot of raids in your economy to build a stone wall and maybe a tower or two around your gold. That could probably be a pretty good use for it. Anyway, so I'm just really building up my economy right now. What I did is I sent a few of the villagers that were farming down to mine gold and cut wood, because since my strategy was just to build knights and rams, I didn't need a whole lot of food, because knights cost more gold than they do food, and rams don't take any food at all, just wood and gold. Rams are pretty expensive in the wood department. So here I'm showing myself launching my final attack. I had 6 rams. I think the 6th one is on its way. I know I'm only showing 5 rams there, but I did build 6 rams, and I would say around 25 to 30 knights, somewhere in that area. I am at population limit at the moment, but I basically just queued up a whole bunch of rams in my stables and sent the gather points down towards this area, towards the British castle, so any losses that I make are going to be immediately replenished by the stables and send in reinforcements. But my force of 30 knights pretty much easily mopped up all the British had to offer, and my rams broke through the wall pretty quickly, and as soon as the wall was broken down, I just sent all the rams attacking the castle, and they rammed it down. Pardon the pun there, but they brought down the castle pretty quickly, and it was a very easy scenario. So any tips that I have for possibly higher difficulties is, since the South British do make a very large amount of knights, if you wish you could create pikemen instead of knights to possibly save some resources and launch your attack a bit earlier. The earlier you do it, the better. The South British do advance the Imperial Age and research fortified wall, and I believe the technology is masonry pretty quickly, which is basically just going to make their walls a little bit slower to get through, as well as their castle a little bit harder to take down, because the masonry upgrade, it increases the castle's hit points as well as armor. So anyway, that's all the tips I have. I thank you for watching this scenario. I hope you enjoyed, and hopefully you are able to get through this scenario yourself pretty easily. So that was the Maid of Orleans, and thanks for watching, and subscribe, and stay tuned for more. Farewell.